Simple Finance. So in order to go for Simple Finance, we need to start from SAP Business Suite for SAP HANA. Thank you very much for attending yet another of our sessions. I do hope that it will be very useful for you all. Okay, first things first. Does anybody have any issues hearing me? If that is the case, please raise your hands. If not, we can proceed further. Well, so I hope everybody can hear me quite well. So let me start with an introduction about myself, and then we will proceed further, right? Okay. So my name is Surya. I have around 14 years of experience in SAP, out of which I was an ABAPer when I started out my career as an ABAPer. Was there for quite a long time, around 8 years. Then I moved to finance. As part of finance, then I went on to work as a techno-functional consultant. And then for the last 1 year, I moved into Simple Finance with around 2 migration experiences. So based on my experience and based on whatever I have learned, that is how we are going to proceed further. And so here I am. So that's all about my introduction. Okay. So what do we have in idea? What are we going to do next? So let me tell you one by one. Okay. Basically, we do have a multiple variety of people who have joined our lectures. We have people who are based out, who are bankers, people who are basis consultants, people who do not have, who are technically qualified ABAPers, WebDin Pro guys, but who have very little experience to finance. So in a varied crowd, our agenda is to first focus on the basics, understand what is about HANA, then about Simple Finance. Once we get a clearer picture of this, then we proceed further. We will learn into how do we do a migration to Simple Finance and all the other business concepts which are associated with it. Okay, so that is our agenda for the next 4 weeks. So in order to start our agenda, let me first summarize, or let me just say how SAP works. Okay, SAP, when they have designed the S4 HANA Simple Finance curriculum, they have put up a structure like this. Okay, so let me just draw that for you. So they start with a course called S4H, oh, let me make all caps, 01. Nothing but this is an intro to S4. Okay, so once this intro is done, the next thing where they go is to AC100. Okay, which is SAP Simple Finance add-on. So once we know S4 HANA, then once we get an overview of Simple Finance, the next course is AC110, which is SAP Accounting. Which is nothing but SAP Accounting. The full name is SAP Accounting, powered by SAP HANA. For AC100, it is SAP Simple Finance add-on migration. Okay. Okay. So first we learn S4H01, then we learn AC100, then we learn AC110, then we learn AC105, which is a specialization called SAP Cash Management. Again, SAP Cash Management, powered by SAP HANA. Okay. Then the last part of it is AC200. Which is your basics of customizing finance. Okay. Now, when a person is thorough in S4H01, then he goes to complete his AC100, AC110, AC105, and AC200. Technically, he can go ahead and write his SAP Simple Finance certification. Okay. So, what is our agenda? Our agenda for the next 4 weeks is going to be like this. Today and tomorrow, we will S4H01. So after this weekend, if you take your materials, or we can share the PDF once we join the class. So once you read the PDF, you know very well that we have completed S4H01. That is the agenda for today and tomorrow's session. Then for the next week, we'll move to AC100, AC110, and then we move to AC105 and AC200. So our overall picture doesn't deviate from what SAP has prescribed. We are going to follow their curriculum line by line. Only thing is, we will go in an express speed while they take, I think their course is designed for 10 days or 11 days, which we are going to do it in 4 weekends. Okay. So out of all this, I told you, our attention is today only on S4H01. Okay. So let's first go start with our session. Our real story starts here. Okay. So this is going to be my first contact to S4 HANA. First contact to S4 HANA. Right. Okay. So whenever we start any lecture, the first lecture always starts with some stories. Okay. So what is the story here? We are just going to see how SAP moved from their original system, which was an R2, to S4 HANA. Okay. So way back in the 1972-73 period when SAP first came up, I think in 1979, they launched their first system, which was an R2. Okay. So in the time of R2, it is nothing but, there was this system called punch cards. Okay. So people were able to do some punch cards and they were using computers to run some machines. So at that time, SAP launched their first package. They called it R2. Then they waited for quite a long time. And then in 1992, they came up with their next package, which was their R3. Okay. So this happened in 1992. R3 was radically a change. R2 was nothing but a front end where you do some input. It goes to the database, accesses and brings some data. Where R3, it was this 3-tier architecture. You remember way back in our universities, we studied database layer, application layer, presentation layer. So they brought the 3-tier architecture to life using their R3. Okay. So they really took a long time. From 79 till 92, they never bothered. In 92, they came up with their R3. And if you are an SAP guy, for most of the SAP guys, you would have currently worked in R3 or you would have continued to work in R3. Okay. Then with the advent of internet, with the power of web and all that, the next NetWeaver package came up in 2004. Okay. And finally, last year in 2015, they came up with S4 HANA. Okay. So essentially, it is nothing but a 3-tier architecture. Then they went to web-based using ERP in 2004. Then they came to S4 HANA. Okay. So why do they need to go for S4 HANA? Okay. The reason was like this. When I told you about a 3-tier architecture, a 3-tier architecture consists of the database layer at the last. They had an application layer on top, and then they had a presentation layer, which was the interface. Okay, this is my user interface, which was my presentation layer. Then all processings happened in my application layer. And in the last was my database layer. Okay, so When SAP built their package, they never bothered about the database layer. Even today, if you're working in SAP, you know that you would have come across Oracle as database, you would have come across DB2 as database, etc., etc. SAP was always an ERP package, and the ERP package was here. Okay, and you know the SAP screen, as how the SAP screen looks. It is our right royal blue color, okay, with all that small fonts. Okay, so this architecture brought a bad name for SAP. How? If you are a finance guy or if you are a guy in this banking industry, you would have noticed something. Every SAP reports runs in the night, and in the early morning, the first thing what the user does is he takes the report and checks it. What was the reason for this batch processing of jobs? The reason was when SAP tries to connect to the database here, and the database gives an answer back, it normally took quite a lot of time. So all these batch jobs normally took a night to do all process. It is not I'm talking about in the past. This is a current scenario which we face. Okay, so this is a scenario in which people say SAP is slow. Actually, it is not SAP which was slow, because SAP was trying to access a database. Though the SAP part of it was faster, the database part is slower. So there is a lag in picking data from the database. Okay, now we'll stop here. We'll consider a very different scenario. I think I've shared this example to some people I may not have, so I will repeat it for others' benefit. Okay. Way back in the 1980s, when the India had their only car manufacturing company, which was Hindustan Motors, when they made their ambassador cars, they never had the engine. So when you order an ambassador car, you get an engine which was an Isuzu engine or it was a Matador engine. Okay. They never had their own engine. What they did is, once the customer orders, the customer says, I need an Isuzu engine. They take an Isuzu engine and build a car on top of it. And that is how you get your Ambi or your ambassador cars. Likewise, when SAP built their application, their engine or the database, they never bothered. Instead, what they took was, they just took Oracle database. On top of it, they put SAP ERP package and they worked fine. Okay. Now, we are talking about a databases. We are talking like how it takes a lot of time. And then databases came up with their own sweet changes, innovations, etc., etc., etc. So what was the first innovation which came up? I mean, think about it. When SAP was designed, a RAM of 46 MB was considered as a novelty. But today, our smartphones have 3 GB RAMs. Again, at that time, memory was a premium. And that is the reason why when we pull data, we say, write your queries in such a way that it doesn't take most of the table. But actually today, in a real time, you can pull the entire table, keep it in your RAM, do the processing and send it back. You don't need to bother too much, right? Because the advances in hardware are so much that your entire database, your entire table from the database layer can be brought up to the application layer, and this process could be done, or it is vice versa. You can do your processing directly in the database layer, because we have the system processing speed which is increased. We have a huge memory which has come up. So there is a tremendous progress in the hardware part. Okay, this is first part. On the second part, whenever we talk of SAP, the underlying database, we are talking about tables, isn't it? We are talking of tables. So how is a table built up? A table consists of columns and rows. So if I am taking an example of one particular bank, how the bank works, normally there is a header table or a master table. It takes a person's name, address, and his account number. So let me say, if I have a bank customer called John who has an account number as 1, who lives, so let me say Arlington, Virginia, assuming he lives here, has opened a bank account today. Okay, so every time he does a transaction, there is a line item table. Okay. And this line item table will have millions of entries. Okay. Every day he does some transactions. So somewhere it needs to be accounted. So right now, how a program works like this. The program first goes to the header table, reads this person's details, then it goes to the line item tables, assuming this person has 1,000 transactions. Okay. And I have 1,000 customer in my bank. Okay. So every time I need to run a report for this bank, it is nothing but a multiplication of 1,000 into 1,000. Okay. So it comes to 1 million searches in my database, isn't it? So technically, when I need to pick a record, it works like this. How it works? First, I need to go and search the master table. Then from the master table, I go to my transaction table, search all the transactions and pick the corresponding one which I require. So a row-based table takes 1 million search to pick a data. This is, I'm just generalizing it. Think of it in banks which are huge, which run in 180 countries, which have millions of people as their customers. So for one select query, it can be a billion search, billion records can be searched, so on and so forth. So what happened here? Table keeps on growing. It keeps growing in such a tremendous pace that right now the data explosion is too much to handle. A very easy example I can tell you is when you use your social media. Example, you have WhatsApp in your mobiles. Every day, how many photographs come? After 10 or 15 days, when you look at your media files, you would have ended up having at least 1,000 media files. And think of 1 billion people in the planet having smartphones with 1,000 media files, which means essentially there is data which is stored everywhere and there is huge amount of data. So when there is so much of data explosion in a business scenario, when there is data which comes added up every day for every transaction we do, it's so difficult to go and access the databases. So there was a radical approach which was needed. So what did SAP do? Before even I go there, I'll say, whenever we talk of table, we always say the definition of table is table contains rows and columns. That is where we started. Okay. So what did SAP do? They completely scratched out this definition. And instead, they went for a very radical table, which I'll tell you, which is called a columnar table. In the case of a columnar table, it works like this. Instead of we having rows, we will start having columns. Okay. So we will take Dear John as our example again. So there is a column here, a person called John who opened an account. This is his account number. He lives in Arlington, Virginia, and every day he has done a transaction from the year 2014. Let me say today he has credited $20. Tomorrow there is a credit of $50, so on and so forth. Okay. Now I need to fetch a record for our same Dear John. I already told you this bank has 1,000 customers. Okay. So there is 1,000 customers, out of which if I find the customer I need, then all his related data is going to be only in this column. Okay. So essentially, what I took 1 million searches to find in a row table, I have found in only 1,000 searches. Why 1,000 searches? Because there is only 1,000 customers. Each of the customers have their own columns. Once you find their column, you are going to get the table details. I mean, the person's details, and you can just display it. So what a row table took 1 million searches. Now a column table takes only 1,000 searches. So we have improved the performance by 1,000 times. How did we improve the performance? We came up with columnar tables. Okay. So On the hardware side, we have increased the processor speed, we have increased the memory. There is a tremendous growth in the hardware part of it, one side. On the other side, we have made the table into a columnar table. So now, based on these two radical approaches, one, I had called it in memory, if you remember the first part, because we can just process everything directly in my database, or I can pull the table directly into my RAM and I can work. The second one was columnar storage. Okay. Based on these two, in memory and columnar storage, SAP in 2011 came up with the concept called HANA. Okay. So that's how HANA was born. And even when they came up with HANA, they never thought that HANA would end up as a database. Instead, all they wanted it to be an accelerator. So what was an accelerator? The accelerator was something like this. There is a database which is present for a company, but every time I access the database, it is taking a lot of time. But I want my report to come faster. So what they suggested, what SAP suggested was, they said, okay, listen people, we'll give you one more database. We are calling it the HANA Accelerator. You mirror or you create a copy of all your data in HANA. What will happen is you want to access the report, it will come up in a jiffy. So that is how way back in 2011, they came out with SAP HANA and they called it their accelerator. Okay. They just said it is in-memory platform, which is nothing but whatever I told you. Okay. Then once when it was launched in 2011, this was a tremendous success. SAP HANA became the story which everybody started talking about. And there is this concept of SAP which you people are aware, which is called SAP BW. Okay. SAP BW was mostly used for data reporting. Okay. So once we saw that SAP HANA is helping us write reports quite faster, then this whole story came up. Why not we use SAP BW, which is having SAP HANA as its primary database? So they called it SAP BW powered by SAP HANA. So SAP HANA was the underlying database. On top of it, we had SAP BW. When did it happen? Right immediately in 2012. Okay. So in 2012, originally SAP HANA was an accelerator. They said you want to use it, you can use it, try it, you feel good, we can go ahead. By 2012, they were so convinced that SAP HANA as an underlying database is very powerful. So they launched SAP BW powered by SAP HANA. This time, first time in SAP history, they were able to do real-time analysis and also real-time reporting. I don't know if you people have worked in banks, because most of my experience comes from a banking part of view. I will say a lot of things from banking part. The real example we face in a bank is this. We have exchange rates which come from different countries. We have exchange rate which comes from Japan, which comes from African countries like Rwanda, Nigeria. But SAP, at the end of the day, we take the last exchange rate. Actually, SAP exchange rate never works like that. Because today morning it would have opened, an INR would have opened against the dollar for 67.10. At midday trading, it would have gone to 67.35. And at the end of the day, it would have come down to 66.20. Okay. So basically, we have to deal with currencies in a real time. But till 2011, when SAP HANA came up, we never had a facility to do that. And that was the reason why you would have heard terminologies like Reuters sending you exchange rates, and we have other exchange rates programs which are running it out. So in 2012, when SAP HANA came up, this was eliminated. Directly we went to real-time reporting. Today, what is the current scenario? What is my exchange rate? Based on that, I can do a reporting and give it. Because if I am selling 300 stocks of something at this moment, I'll make money because the exchange rate is high. So I was able to do a real-time reporting. I'm able to do a real-time analysis. Voila. So it's awesome now. In 2012, SAP HANA is the primary database. I'm able to do real-time analysis, real-time reporting. So what is the next step? Logical progression. What is the logical progression? Now it is not only SAP BW, but SAP Business Suite, which is nothing but our entire SAP. They wanted to power it from SAP HANA. So SAP Business Suite powered by SAP HANA. So when did they come up with? I mean, these changes happen real time. It is right in front of our eyes. These are things which are happening. Okay. 2013, we had SAP Business Suite powered by SAP HANA. Again, now there is no more real-time analysis, no more real-time reporting. It is real-time business. Any business, we can do it directly. Then there are two things first which we can do here. OLAP, other is called OLTP. What is OLAP? Online analytic processing. OLTP is online transaction processing. Both of them could be done together. And for the first time, SAP HANA came up with their cloud. So cloud computing. Okay. So when did this happen? This happened in 2013. Then, okay. So till now we are clear. Okay. Again, a logical progression has to happen. We can't leave 2014 and 15 idle. So in 2014, what did they do? Most of the time taken, or the drag which happens for SAP happens in their finance part. So first, SAP came up with the simple finance. I mean, we are going to read simple finance SFIN 2.0, but in 2014 they came up with version 1 of simple finance. So what did they do here? Here, our traditional FICO, they simplified it and they came up with simple finance, in which you get an instant financial insight, which is like prediction or anything for a company. You can do it right away. Okay. Then they removed aggregates. You know, all this finance tables, BSEC, BSIS, and everything we use only for aggregation. They removed aggregation and they came up with something called single source of truth. Now, I want you to remember only the terminology called single source of truth, because in our coming classes, what we'll study in detail. Okay. So right now, all you have to remember is we have only one place we are going to access, and that is we are going to call it the single source of truth. So when did all this happen? This all happened in 2014. Okay. So then till now, I hope you understood. Now we'll come to the last part of the story, which is what is our introduction to, which came up last year. And this is nothing but SAP S4 HANA. Okay. So it stands for SAP Business Suite for SAP HANA or S4. This, yes, I told you it can be for Business Suite or it can be called as very simple HANA. Okay. Why 4? Because it's the 4th generation. R2 to R3 to ERP to S4 HANA. Okay. So when did they come up with this? They came up in 2015. Okay. Okay. Now, when I told you my single source of truth, okay, so now I hope you understood this diagram. We saw where HANA came up, where we ended up with S4 HANA. Okay, so when I say a single source of truth, a single source of truth is nothing but earlier we had many master tables, many transaction tables. In the future, it will be going to be a matter of one master table and one transaction table. As of now, that is the whole thing we are going to try in Simple Finance. They have piloted in Simple Finance. The next part which has come up is Simple Logistics. Next year, in 2016, we are going to go to Simple ERP. Okay, so entire business logic of ERP is going to go into something called Simple ERP. Okay, so what is the next thing we need to talk about? Just give me one moment. Okay, so Where was I? Okay, I was at the S4 HANA, how it came up. So now let's see how an S4 HANA looks like. Okay. Okay. An S4 HANA now. Earlier, how was it? Earlier, some database was here. Some database was here. Some NEDB was here. We had our ECC 6.0 here, and then top of it we had our SAP R3, so on and so forth. Okay. Now, when I say S4 HANA, how it is going to be? Instead of the R3 part of it, here it is going to be called SAP S4 HANA. Okay. Or rather, I will write it in a much better way. Just give me 1 minute. I will redraw this picture. Okay. 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 There is a database here. There is going to be my application layer, and there is going to be my presentation. Okay. I want to draw you the structure for SAP S4 HANA. So now our understanding is the database. What is a database which is going to be simple? It's going to be HANA database. Why HANA? In memory, columnar storage, all that. Okay. So what is going to be here is going to be SAP Business Suite, which is powered by SAP HANA, which means it will contain our SFIN 2.0 and all that. Okay. Now that's my presentation layer. Now I'm going to introduce you a new terminology. You remember we spoke of SAP Blue Screen. We were very happy when SAP opened up its picture, and on our left-hand side we had all the reports which are listed. Okay, which are called our SAP Welcome Screen. SAP finally they redid all this, and they came up with their most beautiful version, which is called SAP Fiori. Okay, Fiori is going to be my front end. Again, in our introduction, we have already seen HANA as why they came up with HANA. We have to see about Fiori also. We'll just see that once we progress further. Okay, so my S4 HANA will look something like this. The database will contain SAP HANA. So what is the difference between HANA and S4 HANA? S4 HANA is going to be my entire package, under which SAP HANA is going to be my underlying database, on top of which I'm going to have an SAP Business Suite, which is powered by SAP HANA, which will default contain Simple Finance. Okay. Then on top of it, you'll have SAP Fiori. Okay. One thing about Fiori is right now the issue with SAP is it can be used only in a desktop. It cannot be ported to your tablet, or it cannot be ported to your mobile. Whereas in the case of Fiori, Fiori is more like an app. We can just download it, keep it. For a user, based on whatever he is going to do, we can use this app. Okay. So this is how my SAP S4 HANA structure is going to look now. Okay. Now, question. I have an R3 system. I want to move to HANA. How it is going to affect me? Okay. There is a database here. I am using SAP. Okay. I'm using ERP. How it is going to affect me here? I have a database here. I have my ECC 6 here. I have some SAP Business Suite running. Now I want to migrate to S4 HANA. So basically, now when I need to do a migration, or when I need to move to Simple Finance, the whole process is called, or it is named not by me, by SAP as Innovation Without Disruption. Okay. So how do they proceed further? We can directly go to another database here, which is nothing but, instead of any databases, we have to move to HANA database. On top of it, again, we will move to an ECC 6 version, or only thing, it will contain my Simple Finance, SFIN, etc. On top of it, instead of my SAP Business Suite, I will call it my S4HANA. Okay. Now, in the future, instead of this whole structure, I will end up with simple ERP. When it is going to happen? It was supposed to happen by December 2015, but it still has not yet come. So maybe in a matter of few months, we will end up with this structure, and most of the time we'll end up moving to this. So why do we need to study simple finance? The reason is we will have an early bird advantage once this migration starts up. Okay, now the question will arise. If SAP is moving from finance to simple finance, what are the things right now they do? Right now, simple finance migration is done only for two purposes. One is for reporting purposes. Second, it is for just to do a migration and wait there. So most of the time, finance reports take a lot of time. Now, when we do a migration and move to a very simple architecture, our reporting will take quite a very limited time to do. Okay. Now, what does a simple finance guy do? As of today, a simple finance guy does the migration, part one, to simple finance. Second, he tells the user how simple it is and why he should move to simple finance. Most of the time, marketing ourselves. Okay. Maybe in the future, what will happen is when everything comes to simple ERP, by the time we would have become the most experienced people, because we would have done most migrations, or we would have done when SAP moves completely to simple part of it. Again, on this subject, SAP is going to stop their R3 support by 2020, and they will move completely to S4HANA. So that is another reason we have to learn, because it's a blink of an eye. Another 3 or 4 years down the lane, if you are only knowing ERP and R3 stuff, we are obsolete, we are outdated, isn't it? Okay. Now, let's come back to our subject. So, when I say S4HANA, how does it help me in a business? Or what is the business advantage I'm talking about here? Okay. So, there are three things which we need to know. First things first, there is a reimagined business model right now. Our traditional business models don't work anymore. So I have a reimagined business model. Then when I talk of the model being reimagined, the process also will go for a toss. So then I have a reimagined business process, and last, business decisions also have to be changed. Okay, so what do I mean by this? 20 years ago, we never imagined something called a social media. We never thought of it as a business model. But today you open your Facebooks, how many ads pop up? How many people ask you to buy things from Amazon, from eBay, and so on and so forth? Was there a business model like this earlier? There was never a business model like this. But today, there is no complex collaborations. All businesses are interconnected, and there is a simplicity which is needed to connect people to devices and to business networks. Okay, so this is what I mean by a reimagined business model. Okay, so in such a case of a business model, how do my business process has to look? You cannot have batch processing. Believe me, you cannot have reports which run in the evening. You wait for it tomorrow. It is a day-to-day business running in a real time. So what do I mean by day-to-day business running in a real time? It is like you ordering something in a website. Let me say you are ordering something in Amazon. After 10 minutes, when the order is placed, you feel like canceling the order. You go and cancel an order. Earlier, it's not the case. We create an invoice, we wait for an invoice. When the invoice is coming, we are going to do a payment. Nothing of that sort. Everything happens real time. I put an order, 10 minutes later, I want to cancel an order. Everything has to be updated. So we cannot be sitting waiting for the table to get updated. Once the table is updated, we can't say, okay, I'm going to do business after that. So my business model goes for a toss. Then my business process has to be changed. And finally, business decisions. We can't wait for the manager to come and sign and say, okay, now you have to take an action. No. real time decisions need to be made. So when I move to SAP S4 HANA, these three things are moving. It's a value for my business. I can do business real time. I can take decisions on the fly, and the process is also quite simplified. Okay, so this is my business perspective. The same thing if I'm going to have an IT perspective. From an IT perspective, what are the things I can talk of? First things first, I have a reimagined user experience. So when I say a reimagined user experience, what am I talking about? I speak of SAP Fiori. We have come to a graphics SAP. We are talking about graphics being used. We never use graphics when we're talking about SAP. Okay. So right now we are talking about SAP Fiori, which is going to be my function oriented, my role oriented, etc., etc., etc. Then, whenever we talk of SAP systems, we have to think of our basis people, isn't it? Why? There is this configuration stuffs which happen always. You go and stand with them. You have to ask them to help you do something, and if they, in all their free time, decide, okay, we'll help you, then you get the things done. But right now, it is not the case. It's like you have to go to Google Play, download something. If there is an installation guide, put it and do it. So S4 HANA has to come up with their IMG file, implementation guide, or a system configuration. A very simplified system with a guided configuration. Okay. Then, most importantly, what we need to remember is the reimagined business models. Earlier, there was a business model, a reimagined data model. Earlier, we spoke of business model. Now we are going to talk of data models. So what do I mean by data models? I told you already, we spoke of in-memory platform. We spoke of no aggregates needed, no redundancies needed, no indices needed, so on and so forth. Okay. First things first. When I say a data model, now the data space is so reduced that you don't need multiple systems. You don't need an SAP ERP system. You don't need an SAP CRM system. You don't need SAP SRM system, SCM, PLM, etc., etc., etc. All of them can be brought down to one system. So one system can have your ERP, your CRM, your SRM, etc., etc. And so there is no need to face any differences between the different systems because there is only one common source of a live system, live data. Okay. So that is first things. Second, innovation is also made quite simple because since we have come up with the HANA cloud platform, you want to do a predicting, you want to do a recommending, a simulating, while also protecting an existing investment. It works perfectly okay. Third, any business user can have a role-based experience. When I say role-based experience, what am I talking about? Earlier, how things work, there is one particular transaction code. Right from the CEO to the last user of SAP, they have to use the same transaction code, isn't it? But the thing is, some of the users may need only some data, some may need some more information. So a role-based access needs to be given to the data, which can be done right now. Okay, so if I have to summarize S4 HANA's key facts, what are the things I talk about? Data footprint. So there is a smaller data footprint, which means it occupies less memory. There is a higher throughput, higher productivity kind of. Then faster analysis and reporting. This is where all our innovations came up. Processing steps has come down. All systems co-deployed. Remember, I told you can have same system for your CRM, SRM, etc., etc., etc. Then you remember, like once, if I am updating a table, the other person cannot update a table. There is this locking mechanism which happens. This is what we learned earlier in SAP. Like one user is updating the table, the other user cannot update the table because Since he is using, the system is locked. Now, locking part of it is removed. Instead, there is a concept called parallelism where both can do it. Then, data is divided into two parts. One is called actual data. The other is called to this. In the I can talk about Fiori, very good graphical user interfaces. Okay. Most important, deployment. Earlier, how do we deploy? We deploy on-premise, which means like I have to go to an office. I need a system in order to deploy SAP. Right now, I can go for cloud-based. Okay. So S4HANA, the deployment can be on-premise or cloud. So these are the important points which I can talk about when I'm talking of SAP S4HANA. Okay. Okay. So for all the sophistications which I spoke of S4HANA, the most important sophistication is simplification, simplicity. Okay. Everything has to be simplified now. When I say everything, what are the things we spoke of? Already I told you business solutions we are going to simplify. So the first simplification is going to be my simplified data model. Then I'm going to have simple business solutions, and I'm going to have simple user experience. Okay. Till now, whatever we have spoken, we spoke quite generically. Okay. Only now we come to our area, to the finance part of it. So let's start with simple data model. Okay. So whenever I am talking about a simplified data model, how things work. Okay. So let me say this. Simplified data model in finance. Okay. How many tables we know in FI? We know the master table, which is my BKPF table. Then I know my BSEG table. Okay. Finally, if we are talking some technical terms, I feel happy, you know. So there is my header table. There is my line item table. Okay. Now, I'm going to do a simple finance posting. Okay. In order to do a simple finance posting, do you know how many times the system is accessed or the system is going to be used? Okay. Essentially, to do one particular posting in finance, this is something like this. You have your BSEK table, you have your BSET table, you have LFC1, and we have GLT0. Okay. I've not drawn all the tables. I'm just drawing one or two tables. The reason is one particular financial transaction is going to do this. It's going to go access your BKPF table, then BSEG, then your BSIS, then your BSEK, BSET, LFC1, GLT0. These are all just finance tables of the CO tables, COEK, COEP, SOSP, etc., etc. So one particular finance transaction at any given time inserts values into 10 tables and updates 5 tables. This is the current scenario. One particular transaction is going to do all this. Okay. Now, when I talk of simple finance, what I'm going to do? I told you that we are going to have only one line item and one master table. So essentially, one transaction for which there were 10 different inserts and 5 updates which happened. Now it's going to go down, and instead it's going to be a matter of just 4. I'm sorry. In the case of simple finance, it's going to be a matter of only 4 inserts. So it reduces 6 inserts and 5 updates. Okay. So how do I do it? Okay, this is where my single source of truth comes into picture. Simple finance brings a new line item table, and that table is called as AC Doc A table. In the future, this table, as of today, has replaced many of the tables. So many of these tables will be no more in existence, and instead of all these tables, there will be only one table which is going to be my AC Doc A table. Okay, now what happens to the existing code which is already there? All the codes will work fine because all updations happens in the background, and so every time if the system comes across a query in which you are going to access the BSIS table, automatically the program is going to be redirected to my AC Doc A table. So in the future, there will be only one header table, which is my BKPF, and there will be only one line item table, which is my AC Doc A. Okay, and that is why it's called the single source of truth. So how the programs will work? The programs will work beautifully. As of today, it works fine. We have done it. We have seen it. Any code which is already existing need not be tampered. It works beautifully. So we are eliminating a set of all line item tables, some master tables, and replacing them with only 2 tables. One is going to be my BKPF, the other is going to be my AC Doc A. Okay. SAP, in one of their tickets, they said we have simplified things to such an extent that it will never fail. Their simplicity, they have defined it in one part. They just say it will never fail. Okay. You have come across this scenario, isn't it? There are users who will say, I did a transaction, but some of the tables did not get updated. Most of the time, this is a query they will say, I did it, this particular table did not get updated. So no more the case, because we have simplified things to such an extent that it will never fail. Okay, so this is what is my single source of truth, and this is my simplified data model. Your first introduction to simple finance happens like this. Your tables are reduced in simple finance, and instead we are going to have only one line item table, which I call my AC Doc A table. Okay. Again, when you're coming to header table part of it, I told you BKPF is going to be my header table. In the future, BKPF will become the header table for all modules, not only for finance. After some time for SD, we have come up with simple logistics and so on and so forth. There will be only 2 tables. One BKPF will be a header table for not only finance, for everything, and AC Doc A will replace all the line item tables. We will see that in details when we go to our simple finance. Once we finish our overview of simple finance and we go in depth, we will come to that. Okay. Now, so where were I? I was talking about the first simplicity was the simple data model. The first thing in S4HANA, what we learned was the simple data model. Okay. Out of which I told you that in the finance part of it, they're going to replace line item tables and they're going to bring in the AC Doc A table. Okay. Now, what is the reason why they have to do this removal of line item tables? The reason is they don't want aggregates or secondary indexes. What is a secondary index? You see, when a table is created, by default, the primary keys form an index. But in a real-time scenario, I write a query, I need not have my primary indexes to fix a value. Instead, it will be some secondary fields. So in order to make the query faster, we will write secondary indexes. And over a period of time, there will be quite a lot of secondary indexes which will be created. Okay. So this will now start dragging the processing time. So we are going to eliminate two things. We are not going to do any aggregation totals and store it in another table. So all aggregation tables are going to go for a toss. Second, all secondary indexes are going to go for a toss. Okay. Now, in the case of finance, at least I told you, like, there are some of the tables which are removed. But in the case of logistics, in case of simple logistics, it's even drastic. Okay. Normally, we use two header tables. Document tables. What we use is we use the MKPF table for header and MSEG for item. Okay. And then there are 26 tables which contain your inventory aggregates, like MARC, MARD, and then you have around 11 tables for stock types and 13 tables for historical stock figures. Okay. All these tables, they are going to reduce and bring it down to only 4 tables. So, think of this. In simple logistics, slog, 26 tables will get reduced to only 4 tables. And all the details of this 26 tables is going to go to 4 tables. So, accessing it will be quite easy. Okay. Now, what is the need? First, I told you that they removed secondary indexes, then they removed aggregation. What is the need to bring down this design and bring tables which can be a merger of some header tables and some line item tables? First things, it helps them to avoid joins. You need not write anything with joins. Okay. Then this is the basis if I have to do an on-the-fly aggregation. It is like when I'm working, I just need to do some aggregation. I can do it instead of searching for an aggregation table and finding if the value is already aggregated. Okay. So once I have removed all the tables, I am making everything come down to a list of very few tables. What happens to my data footprint? Okay. So the most important thing when we go for simple finance or simple logistics is my data footprint. A traditional database in SAP is around 600 GB. A traditional database. It's going to be 593 GB. Once they moved to HANA, where we had our in-memory column storage, tables getting compressed, etc., 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 this size came down drastically to around 118 GB. Okay. Then, when S4 HANA came up, when S4 HANA came up, it came down to around 50 GB. Okay. So, in fact, it was around 42 GB. So think of it, a 600 GB database, we have reduced it to 42 GB. Okay. So This is all based on the table structure. Okay. Now, when I was telling you all the facts about SAP HANA, S4 HANA, I told you something about actual data and historical data. Okay. Now, imagine a scenario. There is a bank, there is a user. He has a bank account way back from 2004 till date. Most of the time, this user is going to take a data from only the current year or maybe the previous year. So if I am having a bank statement, I want to look at it, maybe the last 3 months or the 6 months, I'm going to use only data which is going to be present in the last 1 or 2 years. I may have a bank account way back from 2004. So my data can be divided into 2 parts. One is my historical data, the other is my actual. Okay. So all my bank data back from 2004 till 2014 can be archived and kept somewhere. And data from 2015 to 2016 can be kept right now in the database. Okay. So this is my actual and this is my historical. Okay. Historical. Okay. Now, this data is called as hot storage and this is cold storage. This is, I mean, these concepts are important if you're going to write a certification point of view. You will end up having questions about hot storage, cold storage, all that. Okay. Now, basically, the data which you need 90% of the time is going to be, or 95% of the, and even 98% of the time, it's going to be only your actual data, not your historical data. Okay, this is the data which you will require most often. 90% of the cases, you will require only that data, which means only that data matters. So, if I am going to need only that data, which is my actual data, my database size is going to come down to 8 GB, which means my entire SAP database, I can just put it down in my mobile phone. So my data footprint has been done from 593 GB, I have brought it down to 8 GB, which means I can run the application on a mobile device. Then my response time for sure will be shorter. I can put more data on a screen. Also, my backup and my updates will be faster. And my restoration will also be quite faster. Okay. So this is what I wanted to talk to you when I spoke of a simple data model. Okay. Now, we'll go to the next concept which he spoke, which was a simple user experience. Remember, in simplicity, I told you about 3 things: simple configuration, simple user experience, simplified data model. Out of which you completed simplified data model. We are going to the next concept, which is simplified user experience. Okay. Okay. Whenever I'm talking about simplified user experience, SAP Fiori, let me repeat it. SAP Fiori is the face of SAP S4 HANA. Okay. SAP Fiori is the front end, is the face. Now, there is a question. How about Lumira? How about Personas? How about other technologies? You know, SAP, like once before they zoom on one particular technology, they try out with, they experiment with so many other things. In fact, you can use a Lumira to do your reporting. In fact, we have quite a lot of tools. We have Office for Analysis, and so on and so forth. But SAP Fiori is the face of S4 HANA. Okay. So what is the difference? Right now, your SAP Fiori, earlier, what are the tools we had? We had our report painter, our report writer, we had our ABAP list viewer, which is our ALV reporting. we had LIS, Logistic Information System, we had COPA research, so on and so forth. But right now, we are not going to use any of this component, any of this reporting tool. Instead, our reporting tool is going to be SAP Fiori. Okay, so why do I need SAP Fiori? First things first, I can use it on any device. I can use it on my laptop, I can use it on my desktop, I can use it on my tab, I can use it on my mobile. So any device, I am okay to use my SAP. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, there is a question. When SAP comes up with their S4 HANA and I'm going to migrate to S4 HANA, what happens to the existing legacy interfaces? Isn't it? This question always comes because any migration, that's the first question they ask. What happens to existing legacy interfaces? What do you think is going to happen? Actually, current SAP S4 HANA on-premise edition supports all the legacy interfaces. Okay, but all SAP S4 innovations are intended to be delivered only with SAP Fiori. Okay, so that you have a same user experience on all the devices which they are going to use. Okay, now why do we need to go for SAP Fiori? What are the things I should know about SAP Fiori? Okay, the first thing is, in the case of an Fiori, it has a very responsive design. So what do I mean by a responsive design? Okay, I will take an example. Okay, there is a user who heads the material division of a company. Okay, he is a user who heads the material division. Now, he has installed Fiori in his mobile phone. Assume he has installed Fiori on his mobile phone, on his mobile device, and he is traveling somewhere. Now, in a week's time, the material in my factory is going to go below the level which it is supposed to be. So he runs his app, Fiori app, and it says the material is stock is going down. So the stock is going to go down. Okay. Now he can make an order, or he can just order right on his mobile device, and he can get over with it. So I need an application, or I need an interface which has a very responsive design. He can just make and reorder directly from his mobile phone. Okay, so that's the first thing. I need a responsive device which is very capable. Okay, the next thing is, today, how is my application designed? My application is mostly functional based. Today, my application is a functional based application. Okay, when I say functional based, what am I meaning? There is a T code. A user has to use it. It's not only the user, whomever I give the authorization, he is going to do it. Okay. In the case of a Fiori based design, this is going to be a role based application. Okay. So what do I mean by a role based application? Okay, first, functional based application, there is only one T code. All users are going to use only one T code. Okay. If I give authorization to the user, he is going to need an authorization to do one T code. He is going to use the T code for multiple roles, exposing all data and functions to all the users. Okay. In the case of a role-based application, decompose the app for each role, exposing only the relevant data and the function. So there are transactional, there are analytical, there are search. So based on the role, he is going to do the application. Okay. Second, to any T codes, earlier there were multiple entry points. It is like I go ahead and do that, I click on that, it comes to the same T code again. Now in Fiori, it is not going to be the case. There is going to be only one entry point. Okay. And for all the users, it's going to be the same entry point. and they're going to form the same design directions. Okay, so these are the things which we are going to do using Fiori. Okay, so how do we find a Fiori app? Very simple. You can go to SAP the SAP help site. There is a Fiori library. Okay, so I mean you can directly try the Fiori library. Once you go to the library, there is a defined set already which is present there. All we can do is go ahead, download all the apps, and then just go ahead and use it directly. Okay. The third thing, after we spoke of the third thing, simplicity concept is going to be my guided configuration. Okay. We spoke of simplified data model. We spoke of Fiori, simplified user experience. Okay. Then we spoke of simplified. Then the last thing is simplified configuration. Okay. As I told you already, we are going to have a guided configuration. Okay. Because it's more like the user has to download directly from Google Play and going to install something. We don't want the user to say, call someone in basis team and going to do any updation. Basically, he has to do it by himself. So SAP comes up with their own guided configuration. All you are supposed to do is follow the guided tour, and you will be able to set up an S4 HANA project directly. You can create a project, you can create a user, you can customize your business requirements, you can test your defined process, so on and so forth. Okay, so this is more like the IMG implementation guide which we use in R3, but it's a more guided one. Okay, so this is about a guided configuration. Okay, now there are some things which we need to know. So what is the result if I'm going to use an S4 HANA? I already know it. There is a dramatic simplification. From 118 GB from HANA, I can bring down my database to around 8.4 GB. Okay, so this is already we spoke of. Some things which we can take or we can just learn of it is my first things. By 10 times, my data footprint is reduced, which is my database size comes down. My performance improvement is around 7x times. Okay. My analysis and reporting increases by a whopping 1800 times. You see, so your report will be 1800 times faster. And all processes, I'm talking about all process steps, they will reduce by at least 4 times. Okay, so these are the changes which will come up when we talk of using SAP S4 HANA. Okay, now I talk of a migration to S4 HANA. How much time is going to take? A statistic says 74% of migrations from normal finance to simple finance, 74% migration has happened in less than 6 months. Okay, of course it is dependent on the user, it is dependent on how we are going to do it, etc. Okay, then if I'm going to do HANA, S4 HANA deployment, how am I going to do it? I already told you there are 3 deployments which can happen. One, it can be an on-premise. We can go to the user facility and we can do a premise-based installation, or we can have a cloud, or we can even have a hybrid. In the case of a hybrid, it is nothing but there is an on-premise plus there is going to be a cloud also, cloud support also. Okay. Most of the time I told you it is going to be non-destructive, so it's not going to affect us in any way. We can just migrate very slowly from our R3 ECC to our S4 HANA. Okay. Then there are some general terms we can talk of, things like if I am moving to S4 HANA, what are the things is going to happen? First things, we can design a cost-effective product because it reduces my time taken to go to the market and come back. Then we can align our product with the demand because we forecast things and we forecast in a real time. Our production can be based on the demand. Then we can create more sales because we are running, we are maximizing sales opportunities. And then we can measure the results because now we have a real-time analysis. We can measure how fast we are efficient and how we are doing things. Okay, so these are more generic terms which we can just talk about when we talk of S4 HANA. More than this, what I want to talk next is I want to talk about industry solutions. You know, always SAP comes up with industry solutions. The same case for SAP HANA, S4 HANA also. Here, if you go for an automotive industry, all you're supposed to do is you go to SAP Fiori, open up automotive, you're going to get all the solutions or all the reports directly which are present there. All you have to do is download it, customize it, you'll be good to go. Okay. So this is the whole structure or the overview about S4 HANA. I think I have nearly spoken of everything. We will just talk about something else now. We'll start something afresh and we will talk. Okay. What I'm going to talk is how is the architecture of S4 HANA going to look like. Okay. I know we are talking too much of theory, but basically we need to know all this because when we go into our technical terms, when we go into our hands-on, there are things which we'll tell and suddenly you should not feel, oh my God, what is this? Okay. So when I say S4 HANA architecture, I mean, this is something which you've already spoken. Our database is going to be S4 HANA. On top of it, I mean, our database is going to be HANA. On top of it, S4 HANA is going to be there. So this is my database. This is the package on top. Okay. So this is my application layer. This is my database layer. I told you we can do in-memory calculations. So basically all calculations need not happen at the application layer at all. Instead, they can happen directly in my database layer. Okay. So again, I told you when HANA came up, it came up as a secondary database. But now our scenario is it will be only the case of a primary database. Okay. Now, what if HANA is a secondary database? What happens then? There is a company which already has some database which is running already. There is a database which is running already. They want to move to HANA. Okay. So this is my existing database. And this is going to be my new HANA database. Okay. So what happens here is, again, on top of it, there is going to be my SAP Business Suite, which is going to run here. So this is my SAP Business Suite, which is connected to my there is an existing database here. Now, there is a tool which is called SAP. I mean, it's not SAP, it's called SLT. Okay. This tool gets the data and loads my HANA. So whenever there is a change in the database which is getting updated, the SLT is going to pick up the data and then it's going to store into my HANA. So whatever is present in this database will have a copy in the SAP HANA database. Okay. So over a period of time, we can remove the existing database and we can replace it with the SAP HANA database. So when I say SLT, what does it stand for? It's called SAP Replication Server, SAP LT Replication Server, which is LT is nothing but SAP Landscape Replication Server. So it just replicates all the data from an existing database into my HANA database. Okay, so over a period of time, the HANA database will be sorry, over a period of time, the HANA database will have the same data as an existing database. So you can replace the existing database by using the SAP HANA database as the primary database. Okay, so this will be the architecture as how it looks. Now, how SAP HANA is so fast? Two things we need to remember whenever we talk of it. Why HANA is so fast? First is the hardware part changes. So what are the changes? First things first. Today we have multi-core architecture. Even I keep repeating, even a mobile phone has quad-core processor, which is 4 processors, which means as now a system has 8 CPU, which contains 10 cores per blade. A blade is nothing but an arrangement of the processors. So 64 processors are normally present in a multi-core architecture. Okay, then we have massive memory. Remember, we have 64-bit addresses which are coming up, and then there is a dramatic decline in price and performance. So these are the reasons, hardware reasons why HANA is quite faster. Software reasons, I already told you. We have columnar storage. Then data is compressed actually. So it occupies less memory space. Then there is a concept called partitioning. Partitioning is nothing but, you see, there are multiple cores. If there is one query, one part of my processor takes or goes to access one part of the table, I can ask the other processor also to look at the other part of the table to find the data. So multiple processors will work on the same select query and on the same table by partitioning the data and working on it. Okay, then we don't have any aggregate tables, no more addition and storing it in any tables. And last, I told you, remember, we have existing database, we have HANA database. This insertion happens only on changes, which is nothing but first time we store and we load an entire table from our legacy system to HANA table system. Then whenever there is a change in the legacy system table, only the change moves to the HANA part of it. And so these are the reasons which make your HANA quite faster, the hardware part of it and the software part of it. Okay, so these are the things which we need to know when we talk of SAP S4 HANA. Okay, so let me summarize whatever I told you. I told you how we ended up with S4 HANA and how we moved from a row-based storage to a column-based storage. Then how we spoke of in-memory. Then we spoke of data footprint. Then how SAP simplified finance by reducing the number of line item tables, bringing them to an universal table. Okay, and then how SAP, HANA has to be a secondary database, how it picks the data from using SLT from an existing database, and over a period of time, it can go ahead and replace the existing database. Also, we spoke of what is the architecture, how it looks, and finally, the programming approach. Earlier approach was we pick up some values from a database, do some calculation in the application layer, and then transfer the results to the screen. Right now, our approach is we do all the calculations in the database layer itself, and then only the results has to be loaded to the front screen. Okay, so this completes my S4 HANA architecture, technical concepts, and also the overview. Okay, what we need to know next is introduction to simple finance also. Okay, so before there is one thing which I want to tell you. So okay, we are talking about HANA database, we are talking about Delta storage, we are talking about data getting stored. What happens in the case of a power failure? Because this is a scenario which you come across. How does HANA take care of it? Okay, so this is like this. This is my SAP HANA platform. Okay, this is my memory. Okay, and these are my databases. Okay. So what happens here is, this is my data backup. Okay, so every time there is a data or a data flow from the memory, there is a save point. A save point is every 5 minutes, assuming every 5 minutes, the system checks what are the changes which are done and then keeps on backing it up. Okay, this is when I use a save point. When I say a commit, there is a log which is maintained. So every table has a log table also. The log says at this point, this is done. Okay, at 12:43, the table is wrote or something like that. There is a log which is written. Okay, and there is a log backup also. So in case of a power failure, I mean, okay, I'll write it here, sorry. So this data backup and the log backup, they are always stored in a backup storage. So we have one more backup storage somewhere here, which stores both of this. It stores this and it also stores this. Okay. So this is my backup storage. Okay. So what happens is, in case of a power failure, my backup storage gets activated and I'm going to pick up the data to the nearest time when so if there is a power failure at 12:47, if 12:43 was my last update, I'll be able to load all the data till that time. Okay. And what happens if there is, I told you that we are talking about a HANA database. So this happens when there is an external backup storage device which is there. I need to pick up the data. But what happens if the HANA node itself fails? Okay, so inside a system, your HANA memory platform always has a standby node. Okay, so this is going to be HANA's node 1. And this is my node 2, etc., etc. And there is one node which is always a standby node. Okay, so in case one of my HANA nodes fail, you know what happens? Assuming this node is failed now, it has stopped working. Whatever processing was done by this node is immediately taken over by my standby node, and now it acts as my node 2. Okay, so whenever there is a host auto failure, this node, the standby node, becomes that particular primary node and starts acting. So what happens here? There is 0 chances of my SAP HANA platform going for a toss or going for a failure. Okay, Now, one more thing which I need to talk about is called storage mirroring, which I have already spoken about. Every time, whenever there is a change in the data and the logs, they all get stored in a backup log. Okay. Now, an exact server similar to your HANA platform exists here. Or we have one more server which is the same as this, and every change which is done here is written here also. Every change, whatever changes are done here, whatever happens here is copied here. Okay. Why do we need it? This is called storage mirroring. So whatever is present here is replicated in the other HANA platform. Why do I need it? I need it because in case of a failure of my primary system, I will ask this system to take over as my secondary system. Okay, that's the reason I use this for my mirroring. So what is storage mirroring? It is the act of copying a data from one location to another storage device in real time. Okay, so in case of a recovery of a critical data during the time of a disaster, the storage mirroring helps me. Okay, now I spoke of storage, I spoke of memory, I spoke of data transfer, everything. One thing which we have not spoken is security. Okay, so what are the kind of security which we know? First thing is identity management, which is like we know who is the user, who is going to log into my system. So we are going to do a security based on identity management. Okay. So the last part of what I'm going to talk is SAP HANA security. Okay. So how do I do a security? First things first, I have identity management, which is nothing but the user has a username password based on which he is going to log in. Okay. Then I have what else I have? I can have my single sign-on. I can have my out-of-the-box connectors, something like compliance infrastructure. Then I can have a logging infrastructure, which is my we use the Linux slog, isn't it? So all this I can use to manage my security. Okay. So how do I do authentication? When I say identification management, what are the things I can talk of? I can talk of authorization. Then I can talk of authentication. How do I authenticate using my SSO? Then I can use encryption. Then audit logging. And lastly, identity stores. Okay. So these are my security functions I can have a look or I can talk about. Okay. So with this, we have completely covered SAP S4 HANA. So we saw what is a HANA database. We saw what is SAP Business Suite for HANA. And then we saw SAP Fiori. And then we saw overall what is SAP S4 HANA. Okay. I'm stopping here for the day. The reason being, I'm going to start afresh about overview for Simple Finance, which I did not want to do right away. Okay. So what I want from you is, do you have any questions till what we spoke? Because these are some concepts which I want you to know regarding how an HANA database looks like, how for the feel of it, we will have a hands-on tomorrow first, and then we will go into Simple Finance overview. So I just leave the floor open. I want you to ask me any questions which you have so that we can talk. Okay, the thing is, can you please, I mean, there are questions which are typed, so I will just take one by one. Okay, I have, okay, okay. See, the first thing first about migration is this. Most of the scenarios, migration works like this. There is a classical GL scenario, and right now, many SAP Finance users move to new GL. Okay, so this is the scenario as of today. There is a classical GL, they move to new GL. Tomorrow, the scenario will change, and what will happen is they will all move to simple finance. So this is how this migration part works. Okay. Now, in the case of a new implementation at all, even in case of new implementation, how it is going to be is, this is going to be a case where we are going to migrate. Either you're going to have classical GL and we can try to move directly to new GL, okay? Or it is the case of you have classical GL and we move to new GL and then we move to simple finance, okay? Now, any custom code or reports which are already written, you need not touch anything. All your custom code and all your reports will work perfectly okay once we do a migration. How it happens? Because the tweaking happens in the backend. Okay, so whenever there is an example, if I say there is a query which says select BUKNR, I'm just giving an example. Okay, if I write a query, okay, let me write a query, okay, just for the sake. So there is an existing code like this. From BSIS into some internal table. Okay. Now I have migrated. I am no more using a BSIS table. You know what happens now? This query works like this. The moment system gets this query, it translates into okay, what happens is, for all the tables which we are trying to remove, the system creates a view. You know what is a view, isn't it? A table holds data and occupies a memory space, whereas a view has the same structure as a table, but it does not hold any data. Okay, so this query gets translated into something like select from a view. Now, what happens here is this again gets translated into something like select BUKNR from AC.A table into iTab. Of course, there is a, you have to assume there is this where class. So what is your role here? Nothing. This existing BSIS, when we go for a migration, a view is created. So the moment the system hits a select statement like this, it goes to the view. Once the view is read by the system, automatically it transfers the control to AC.A. Okay, so value is picked from the AC.A table, though the query is written for the BSIS table. Okay, so this is how a query works in a standard scenario. Okay, so I hope you understood this part of it. Okay, now when we migrate from an existing database to an SAP HANA database, all the existing data is going to get migrated to my HANA database. So we are going to use the existing data perfectly well. But the only change which is going to happen is You remember we spoke of hot storage and cold storage. Okay, so some of my data will be archived. It's not going to get deleted. Some of my data is going to get archived, and some of my good data is going to be live, which is going to be present in the system for continuous usage. Okay, so all data, no data is lost. Some data is going to be historical, and some data is going to be current. Okay, so this is so essentially there is no data losage, or we are not going to lose any data anywhere. Okay, then let me go to my next question. Okay, so some of the questions which are not related to this, okay, are like, okay, how do you run an archive and a live data together? Actually, in the scenario when you have to pick up your archived data, we have archive tables. We will come to that. We will see how an archive table look like. So we will go ahead to access the archive data, and we can bring the data. Okay. So that part of it, it's technical one. We will once we come, we'll cross the bridge once it comes there. Okay. Now, some of the normal questions. Okay. Things like recordings. Do we get a copy? Yes, sure. Once you join, you will get a recording. You will get the material. You will get the system access, all that. Fine. Okay. Then regarding other things, curriculum, payments, etc., etc., etc. For everything, we will get in touch with you. We have a person called Bharat who will get in touch with you. Okay. Any technical things, please do ask me, so that like we will discuss technical things, and then we will discuss all the other things when it comes. Okay. Don't worry about the recording part of it. You all will be getting the recordings. Okay. So all you need to do is just write down to our mail ID. Again, system access. Yes, we do have a system, and we will give you the access. It depends on how much time you need the access for. Okay. So that part of it also we will cover. Again, we will meet for our classes. Tomorrow it will be the same time. We'll start at around 7 IST, and we will proceed. Then migration. Yes, we will do the migration in our next, not this week, because this week is more about only learning the basics. So we will just see only what we are going to do on this week. Next week, for sure, we will do a hands-on as how we do a migration. Okay, we will do a migration, because as of today, a simple finance guy has to do a migration. That is his only role as of today. And you will get the same system on which we can do a migration, so that you can also go ahead and do a practice. So you need not worry about that part of it. Archiving data, I mean, any data which is stored in a database has to be replicated. It is irrespective of if S4HANA has a data, it has to be replicated, stored somewhere else for a backup. So you need not differentiate the data into archive data or hot or cold storage. The reason being why we came across hot and cold storage is like this. In a real-time scenario, as of today, we want people to use SAP from your mobile phones. In such a case, he has to store some data in his mobile phone, because he wants to look at a report. Let me say income statement report. I want an income statement for the last 12 months. So I can just pull it out directly from my mobile phones. So in case of data which has to be replicated, all data has to be replicated, all has to be stored in my replication service, right? Okay. And then the system we have is S4HANA system. So you need not worry about it. That is the system you will get access to, and that is the system you will practice on, your hands on. Because you need to practice only on an S4HANA perfect environment. Because tomorrow you need to go out, work, tell your client that you know simple finance. You should be able to work in the same area. For the certification part of S4HANA, yes, we will cover all the contents. Our agenda is once you finish this course, because why do we have to cover so much of theory today, which we could have skipped or we could have done it in 20 minutes time? The reason is being, I want you to be prepared very well to write your certification. Of course, if you have your learning hubs, you can just finish this course. You can do it next, because we have nearly covered everything, and we can go ahead and write your certification directly. In case you get a chance to work in Simple Finance, your HR normally gives you your letters to write your certification, or for people who have Learning Hub access. I mean, if you don't have a Learning Hub access, I think it's easier to get an access for 1 year. It's quite cheaper. It works out cheaper than going and attending a class. And you can just do your online courses and write your certification directly. Okay, then one thing which I have to tell you about this migration is like this. You see, whenever we talk of migrating from a classical GL scenario or from a current finance scenario to Simple Finance, it works like this. You know, every finance activities has something called period end activity. You do a month end closing, you do a quarter end closing, or you do a year end closing. Okay, so after any one of these closing, we can start the migration, and we can go ahead to do a migration. Most ideal scenario will be to do a year-end migration, because we would have completely closed the books, and we can just ask them to go for a migration. Okay, so that is when we go for a migration. Okay, so once we start the migration, we can't do any postings. So all that will go for a hold for some time. But once the migration is done, then everything comes back to normal. It is like the user will not even know a difference that they have migrated. I'm talking about a scenario where the user interface all remains the same. So the user will not even realize they have migrated. Only thing is, a report which took 8 hours to run will now run in 5 minutes time maximum. So their understanding of Simple Finance will be so simple. I'm just talking from my experience. Their understanding of migration will be like, okay, they have speeded up the system. They fastened things. Okay, so that is why SAP calls it as a non-disruptive migration. It is like you don't disturb an existing scenario. You don't even need to tell an end user that you are migrating. Of course, you need to tell the user, but even if the user is not aware that there is a migration, is not going to be disturbed by the migration until and unless the posting happens on that day. Okay. Then we are trying to cover as much as possible in Simple Finance. Okay. We are not going to skip any part of it. At least in when it comes to theory, we may just skip 1 or 2, because you know some of the points are repetitive. What you learn in S4H01 will continue in AC 100, which is like if you are going to take the PDF and read the material, whatever we spoke today, tomorrow or our next week's session, at least the first 60 pages will be a repetition of that. Okay, so that part of it will not cover. But other than that, concept wise, whatever is present in Simple Finance, we will cover everything. Because the idea is, after a month's time, you should be prepared, or you should be confident enough to go and do a migration, or at least you be a person people can ask what is going to happen in a migration part of you and proceed further. Okay, so that is the idea. That is the coverage that we focus on right now. You see, Fiori, as I told you, is the ideal scenario once after migration which the user can use. But it need not be the only option for the user. He can use his normal screens. That is the reason I told you. You remember I had put a question mark and asked, what happens to the existing legacy interface? The existing legacy interfaces are supported perfectly, no issues. Okay, so it need not be only Fiori. But actually, SAP encourages you, or SAP asks you to use Fiori as your phase of your migration. You know, it is like telling them, you see, it is more like you updating your mobile phones. Once you move from Android one version to the other, you want some changes, at least to say, okay, I have migrated. But there is always a case you can continue using your legacy interfaces. No issues with that. I hope I have answered nearly all your questions. I look forward to meeting everybody to our tomorrow's introduction to simple finance part of it. Because today what we have covered is only the HANA and the S4 HANA. Real technical things comes only from tomorrow's class. So I look forward to all of you joining me tomorrow at 7. It will be my pleasure, and I always look forward to all your questions. Our people will give you a call, okay? Because there are some questions I cannot answer. I have a list of around 108 questions also. So some of it I cannot answer, some of it I will ask my people to contact you, and some of it, if you need materials and lectures and all that, we will mail it across to you. That is going to be no issues, okay? So please do keep in touch. It's my pleasure. I hope I have made a difference to you. Because we talk a lot, and at the end of the day, the greatest thing I want is that I have made an impression, so that you get an interest to learn a new thing. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day. Okay. See you tomorrow. Bye.